Plant-based food company Veg of Lund have reported for the third quarter in 2022. To discuss the report and more importantly the near future, I have with me the newly onboarded CEO Fredrik Carling. Welcome, Fredrik.
Thank you so much, Matthias.
You started as the CEO of the company on the 19th of September. So can you give us a brief introduction to yourself?
Of course. I come from a very commercial background. I grew up professionally in Levi Strauss. Many of you know that business, multinational, consumer-oriented, very brand-oriented business. That's where I spent my early years. Back in Sweden, because I spent some time internationally with them, I have in the last 10 years been in charge of Hövding, the airbag bicycle helmets that some of you might be familiar with, where I joined year one into a company that had a great product but needed to be commercialized and internationalized. And I spent 10 years with Hövding as the CEO, taking it to where it was just a little bit close to a year ago when I left that business. So now I'm looking to join a different business, but very much the same type of challenge to internationalize and commercialize once again, this time with Veg of Lund.
Exactly. We will get back to that part of your job in just a minute. But first, go through the numbers of the reported quarter, where net sales landed at 349,000, down from 610 for the same period last year. And a net profit amounted to minus 5.4 million Swedish kronor compared to minus 6.2 in the corresponding period last year. What is your comment on this?
I think the numbers very much reflects the state that the business has been in over the last 3, 4, 5 months, which is very much in a waiting state. Both a waiting maybe for my arrival into the company and new leadership taking the business forward, but also financially a little bit in a waiting state today. And I think we will talk a little bit about that later on. We announced a new issue that we'll be moving forward with. And last month had been very much holding costs down. So sales is very low. Cost is also significantly lower than it was in the beginning of the year, which is a true reflection of more of a waiting stage, which we now are moving out of.
So you will now implement new strategy, business models, and so on. Where should we start?
I think we maybe should start with a place of motivation for me. For me, before I signed on to Veg of Lund, it was very important to get to a place where I fundamentally agree and buy into the strategy that had already been outlined by the board. So obviously that process, going through those discussions, took me to a place where I do firmly believe in the change of direction that the company announced earlier this year. And that's now what needs to be more precision-based and implemented, of course, which is to have a multitude of tools in your toolbox when you go to market. Not only one approach is the best approach in every market. So I think the most significant change in direction, which I'm looking forward to implement now, is to build a portfolio of business models suited for different products in different markets. So in some parts, we will continue with going direct to market like we've done historically in Sweden and in the UK. It gives us that closeness and presence to the market and ability to define exactly what the best ways of going to market is. But more importantly, moving forward, and I think a greater share of our business moving forward will be that of partnering up with external resources. So experts in geographies, experts in fields that can do the job to bring products to market for us. And we will do that in distributor setups, in especially markets that are more close to us, and we'll do it with license models with markets that are more distant to us. And you mentioned, for instance, activities in the quarter has gone the signing of a letter of intent with a key player in Southeast Asia. That is a typical example of the preferred business model moving forward for us.
Exactly, and maybe more direct sales in Sweden and, for instance, UK and distributors throughout Europe.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's at this point, it would be a little bit presumptuous of me to say exactly in what split and what mix those business models will take. I prefer to take more of an opportunistic approach to that. There will be opportunities that is best suited for one model, and we'll choose that, another for another model, and then we'll choose that.
And what about North America?
I think North America is to many businesses, is a big consumer market, especially also in plant-based food. But it is also a very big market, and I think we as a company need to, get out of the crawling state onto our, 2 feet and start walking. And we'll do that in other markets first before we start attacking the US.
Okay. So if we move on to products, you have both plant-based meat and you have ice cream. And what can you tell us about these 2 new areas?
I think for Veg of Lund, that is one of the fundamental strengths of the company, and certainly one of the key arguments for why I signed up as well, is that there is a unique, fundamentally globally protected through a patent portfolio product range. And we have obviously had in the market since a while back the milk alternative in 3 versions. It hasn't performed as the company has hoped for, and we've gone through revisions throughout the year, and we relaunched that in a new format with improved taste and cleaner label, as you call it, for January. Then we had the smoothie, which is another version of the potato oil emulsion that we base everything we do on. That was launched in the Swedish market now just past week. And then, interestingly as well, which is not productified or made into product just yet, is ice cream, as you mentioned, and the meat analog. And these are promises for the future, so to speak. But what I like is that we have passed the stage of pure research, and we're now in the stage of product development, so to speak. So I hope to see that going to market in not too distant future, not necessarily by ourselves, but through partnerships with businesses that do that on an everyday basis, that do it really well.
So what kind of a timeline approximately? Are we talking 2023 into the market on this new?
I think the aim should be to deliver these innovations to market as soon as possible, and definitely there's a demand right now for them. At the same time, one of the learning that the business have had, I think, prior to me joining is when we bring to market, we need to get it right. We need to make absolutely sure that the product meets the consumer's quite detailed and specific taste and demand. So I would prefer not to lock into a timeline, but rather lock into the promise that when we do, it will be with great products that we bring to market.
So, and when it comes to the licensing or producing and distributing in Southeast Asia, for instance, how long does it take from when you sign the contract until they actually can start producing and distributing?
Well, like you say, producing is one of the key ingredients, and often for our colleagues is the step that takes the longest to implement. Luckily, we have in effect a relatively simple product to be produced. Machinery in factories across the globe already have the type of equipment that is needed for our product. They don't need to invest heavily in new. There's not a long starting stretch to get it from kind of sampling through to mass production. So I definitely look forward to having the products on market during 2023. And one of the reasons we can do that, which for some of our colleagues in the business is a bit harder, is the simplified setup in the production and supply area of going to market.
I know that you have some IP protection on your production, but how difficult is it for competitors to start doing products similar to yours?
Well, considering that it took quite a long before Eva Thornberg, the founder of one of the founders of the company, cracked the nut, so to speak, I think that bears testament to that. It's not an easy solution to figure out. And when we start up these partnerships, we make sure that we keep part of the secret sauce, so to speak. Some aspects of the know-how we will keep close to heart and not necessarily share with licensing partners. So the process itself is relatively simple, but you need obviously the right recipes, the right ingredients in order to make it successful. And those are things that we keep close check on ourselves.
Okay. If we move to the directed share issue, it is to bring in 30.9 million Swedish kronas. How much of this is guaranteed?
The guarantee of the new share issue is amounted to 70%.
Okay.
So that is a combination of existing large shareholders that has recommitted to the company, and then guaranteed partners that have gone in and taking us to that level.
So commercialization and internationalization, that will be your main focus in the coming time.
Yeah, and I think the simpler of those three words would be focus, actually. I think it's incredibly important for us to bring focus to the way that we do business. I think we spent the past year, the business have spent the past year or 2 years in trialing different ways of moving products to market, some successfully, some less so. And those are the experience that I now have the benefit of inheriting when we go to market forward. And the key thing will be to make less things really good, make sure that they are successful, and focus is definitely a key to achieving that.
Thank you so much, Fredrik. That was all the questions I had for you today, and that leaves me with just wishing you good luck at the company, and the company good luck with the share issue and the business. Thank you.
Thank you so much.